I'm here with Bender.
And I'm here with Sydney, and this is BS Astrology.
What's up, y'all? We are here for June 24th through the 30th, which is Tuesday through Monday.
Today is Monday, June 23rd.
Yes.
So we are officially
in the week.
We're in it.
And we're starting this filming at 1:29 p.m. So just for a little bit of context, and the moon is extremely void, which is why we're filming this about an hour later than we normally do, because I
just kind of sauntered in here like 45 minutes later than I said I'd be here.
And then we decided to talk about a chart that's particularly spicy that's coming up instead of doing our actual work.
And then we wound up back in 1992.
We did.
Around the time I was born.
We did.
Talking about that.
Yeah. But there's a lot of astrology happening, as there always is. But let's go over some of the kind of little housekeeping parts of this week. Moon is out of bounds until Friday around 2 a.m.
The moon is squirrely this week.
It's very squirrely.
Very squirrely.
So I think that, she in particular is a major player because it's making people highly emotional and emotionally volatile.
Yep.
And like feeling really big feelings. And obviously we just had some pretty significant military action take place. So people are feeling on edge.
Yep.
Uranus is anoretic until its ingress into Gemini on July 7th. So it's at that 29th degree, and we're seeing a whole bunch of weird shit happening with Uranus is the planet that signifies odd flight.
Yep.
And so we had one more of Elon's starships
just fucking explode.
And then we had, was it a hot air balloon?
Yep, the hot air balloon.
And then
there's actually been like a lot of weird little minor disasters that have happened this week, like that boat capsizing in Tahoe.
Yeah, just like sudden, shocking, upsetting, strange, not of the ordinary, which is a very Uranian concept.
Yeah.
So I would expect that we're going to see some more of that by Lamont, a bit more of that as we go in through this week and into the next too, because obviously anoretic for the next about week and a half. Mars is on a critical degree right now, which is the 4th degree and also the 17th degree. So just so you know, the mutable critical degrees are 4 and 17, and we're going to have Mars on mutable 4 until Wednesday afternoon. And then he's going to hit the world point on Monday, June 30th. So I think that this is a prominent week for Mars, which isn't great considering we know what happened with the finger of God with Mars this last weekend.
Yep, with Iran.
Yep.
And all that good stuff.
Yeah. Jupiter still is within the square from Saturn and Neptune and doesn't exit combustion until July 5th, and it will be under the beams until July 20th. So what this means is, like, in all of the ways that, God, I haven't been able to throw a rock without hitting an astrologer that's like, Jupiter in Cancer is the best thing ever. And like Jupiter in Cancer can be, but right now Jupiter is under a lot of stress and duress and confusion and illusion and limit.
And we talked about this before because I think like exalted or really like signs that or planets that are in signs that make them really happy, you're right, it's all about the condition, because otherwise it can just be like overblown, right? It's almost like it's being given too much free reign to pull some bullshit. Jupiter is kind of doing some wacky stuff while in Cancer,
and we just don't get to understand the goodness of it well until July. I don't think we get the full expression of what it's really supposed to allow us to do, which in some ways I'm like, is that a good thing? Because Jupiter in Cancer likes to spread, and right now we're dealing with like a lot of stuff around nationalism and everything around homeland, so like maybe it's actually being restrained a little bit by the threat of war.
That's kind of the what I was thinking. Is maybe like Cancer, like anytime a sign's been in Cancer this year, it's been about like fucking nationalistic like racism, or like weird things like that,
Yeah.
weird immigration policies. So yeah, like someone should put a leash on
Jupiter
Jupiter and Cancer right now.
would be great.
Come on, Cancer, get your shit together.
Those two those two fingers of God with Mars and Pluto being at the apex of each of the yods are still in play through Thursday, so we could still see some elevated action around Mars and Pluto things. We know that those yods were in play for the airstrikes that happened from the US to Iran. So we could potentially think that there could be more action there. Um, and then I was looking at the chart. The sun is going to translate light from its cazimi that it has with Jupiter to sextile Mars. And I was thinking about this sextile because I think that it's relatively malefic because there is no reception.
Mm-hmm.
I
see
think
that.
that it like really exacerbates and gives the oomph and the more to Mars more than it says, oh, hey, we're friends. We have some good energy here. And it's like, we got bad energy and we know how to use it.
Yeah, and Mars has a lot more support right now.
Yeah.
Right? So,
I think that we can just look outside. We can open up, TikTok or YouTube or even just go on horrible CNN and know that shit is going down right now. But I think that the planets are just mirroring the challenges.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. So let's go into it. Tuesday.
Let's jump into Tuesday, June 24th. We've got Moon and Mercury in mutual reception until the evening, which is nice.
I think it'll be more or less kind of helpful considering that we got some hyphy weather in the sky.
And I don't necessarily think Tuesday's the easiest day ever.
No.
I'm not thrilled about the weather of Tuesday, but I do think that Moon and Mercury is going to invite at least some understanding or conversation around what's going on.
Yeah, we kind of have some biggies. And just as a note for those like 20 of you that either listen or watch us, we love you. Is that we have removed some of the minor aspects to hopefully get into the meat of the matter, especially since the moon's minor aspects are pretty quick. And so hopefully this will make us a little less long-winded, but
we're going to share vibes more than specifics.
Yeah, so we'll try. But
when does Mercury go into Leo?
Soon.
This
week.
Mercury and Leo hates the details. It just wants to know.
Yeah.
Just wants the brushstrokes. So,
but we start early morning, 12:16 a.m. Mercury square Chiron. So this is like feeling intellectually like threatened or hurt.
Yeah.
Insulted. You've insulted my intelligence.
Yeah, you've insulted my intelligence. Yeah, or being made to feel stupid.
Yeah.
In some way. It is going to be in the middle of the night, so maybe you'll just have like a weird anxiety dream about doing something stupid at work or something.
I can't help but wonder if it's like the barbs that people throw when they've been attacked, right? And like, I'm not sure if you've paid attention to any of the things that Iran has been saying, kind of back towards the US, like those were ineffectual. And that is what a sick burn.
Especially when our current president is someone like Trump, right? Like it is such a sick burn.
That didn't work. Be prepared for our response when we choose to.
Yeah, it's like, oh, honey, nice try.
But it does feel
it's a very like bless your heart energy.
Yeah, it's rough. But I do think that there's a lot of like just feeling intellectually threatened and offended. And this is from all sides, certainly. And then Moon Sesu square retrograde Pluto. This brings up a sense of anxiety, frustration, emotional frustration, trying to get to the bottom of things. 5:59 a.m. This is kind of one of the biggies of the day. We have two more. Is Sun quincunx Pluto.
Yeah, which seems to carry on with the whole like feeling, rather than feeling like intellectually insulted, it's just sort of like ego wound stuff and having to dig into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's something about like having to, like I have Sun Pluto quincunx in my chart. It's relatively wide, but how I've been made to understand it is that like there's a constant adjusting around one's ego that needs to be done, which causes an anxiety, right? You never want to be too big, right? But you also don't want to underplay yourself, because that's when you get disrespected and taken advantage of.
I think it's really interesting just that you're bringing it up in your chart, if you don't mind me saying, just because you're a person who, like, if you know you interpersonally, you don't want to be the center of attention.
Never.
You never. No. And you're very practical. You're not particularly ego driven, but who you are physically and professionally, you walk into a room and you command attention, right? In ways that you do not want.
Correct. If I could have an invisibility cloak, I'd be thrilled.
And you basically have the opposite of that, where you have this like super visibility cloak, right? And that feels very quincunx to me.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So like, take that example, right?
Yeah, and then people's expectations, right? They expect me to be a certain way, and so then they'll project those things onto me. Right. And when I try to communicate to them that actually those things are not the things that are important to me, that is either offensive to them or they don't believe me.
Yeah. They like project they're like, well, clearly you're a performer, so you want the attention.
You have to care about the attention. I'm like, absolutely not.
It's fucking don't.
Like, unless I'm on stage, I do not care. It is not important. And it's only important because that's what the stage demands, is for you to make yourself big.
Right, exactly. So, and it's just a funny thing that you love your craft. You 100%. Put so much into your craft, but you hate this primary thing that inevitably comes with your craft.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's a good way to think about the quincunx is take a person who doesn't want attention, who wants to be invisible, who is 6 feet tall and a burlesque performer.
Well, and there's also just like, you want to be creative, right?
You want to be creative, but you don't want all of that ego shit that comes with it.
But constantly having to be in some sort of adjustment around like power, right? It's also because Pluto and the sun,
right?
These are both, what is it called? Archetypes, of power, both external and also like internal power. So could be a little crunchy.
And that's what you're waking up with, right? That's like 6 a.m. If you're East Coast, it's going to be more like 9 a.m., but you are basically starting your Tuesday with that discomfort.
Yeah. And we also should make a note too, the moon is void during this.
Yeah.
All of these things. So like however the ways that you try to initiate some sort of new way of making this adjustment, I don't think that it will really stick or hold or anything will really come of it, because we don't have all the information, and also because the moon is void.
Yeah. It's the worst thing about it, this quincunx, is you pretty much just have to like
sit in it
and process it.
Yeah. 8:17 a.m. Sun conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. This is the Cazimi. And you want to talk a little bit about a Cazimi?
Well, with the Cazimi, with this particular Cazimi, I mean, it's. Sorry, was this the one where we were talking? Hold on, pause. Is this the one where we were talking about it being not good? Hold on, can I see the chart?
Yeah.
Sun, Jupiter.
Well, I mean, it's restrained, and also the moon is void.
Okay.
We'll come
back. Okay, so we've got a Cazimi. That can usually be pretty explosive, but we do have, or like very fired up. But we do have a void, of course, moon. And we were talking earlier about how, Cancer is going to be a little bit more restrained at this point in time.
It's still within the square of Saturn and Neptune, so we still aren't getting an unrestrained Jupiter. It's so sad the Cazimi is going to be during a void moon, because like you don't get that. All of the witches that do like talisman magic, they don't get to use this election.
No,
they don't get to use this Cazimi because the moon is void.
Right. But again, it's like what we were talking about. I think maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Cancer has been Cancer has been a little bit of a fuckwad this year. And with Jupiter in Cancer, that's just going to be really, that just allows Cancer to expand on whatever it's building on, even if it's things like nationalism, even if it's things like immigration policy. So I think that maybe this isn't a time that we need to do magic right now, right? Maybe it is just a good time to I feel like the sun conjunct Jupiter is actually just going to be shining a light on things. And again, it's just a thing that we have to like take in and process. And it's going to kind of be showing us the effects of what Jupiter in Cancer has been doing.
Yeah, I can dig that.
So it's, I don't know, this day's just not my favorite.
It's real. I mean, and also like during the Cazimi, we have Mars will be quincunx Pluto. So this is, issues with, again, with ego and drive, desires. There's some sort of adjustment that needs to be made there.
Right. Well, that's the other thing is we're starting the morning with that sun quincunx to Pluto. And then we come to a sun conjunction with Jupiter
there's
and Cancer.
Still, both of those planets. The Cazimi is in conjunct Pluto.
Yeah.
For all intensive purposes.
Right. And that makes me feel like Sun is going to want to use Jupiter and Cancer to kind of like retreat to what feels safe. Right.
It's also just a big fucking yod because Pluto's at the apex. So again, something like some deep institutional change is like being developed here. Potentially. It just, I don't know. I think that Cazimi happening when a yod is in play with two essentially malefics, and then the greatest benefic good planet in the sky is being restrained by the other malefic, Saturn.
Right.
It feels a little bit more violent than it is good, and any of the expansiveness that we would get is maybe of a nature that we didn't necessarily want.
Yeah.
That we wouldn't classify as good, potentially.
Yeah, I don't see it as like defensive, violent energy.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Like trying to respond before the other person gets a chance to. And then right after that, we've got Moon in Gemini squaring off with the nodes, which is
choice
also
point.
It's a choice point. It's destabilizing. It's going to be things around communication. What degree is that?
The 22nd degree.
The 22nd degree.
Mutable. I want to say that might be I think that's a world point for in the mutables. No. Yes. Oh, my brain. Oh, that's rough. But in any case, like the moon being square the nodes, we know that there's something around nurturing, around the people, like from a mundane standpoint. There's a fly in here and it's killing me.
I know.
Okay. And the integration point here, like the moon, we stand at the choice. We're at the precipice of we could go this way or we could go that way with whatever choice we have to make around the information that's been given to us.
And we know Gemini loves making choices, so
fair. The resolution node again is that north node in Pisces, right? Which is the like the acceptance of all and everything, of making room for everybody to exist, of like care and consideration, of higher love. It's not what we're doing a lot of right now.
No. It's a mutable square, which feels a little bit like
you gotta go with the flow, baby.
Like we have to go with the flow, which can also almost make it a little easier. Like it's almost like whatever choice you make, it's just going to happen the way it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, if we consider like the mutable T square, that whole idea, the empty leg being like prominent or like what you would have to do to resolve it, right? That brings us to Sag, which is all about like hope and faith and telling the truth and standing inside of your truth.
Right.
So, take for that what you will. If you have any planets at 22 mutable, which I have so many things going on at the 22 mutable stage, it's very possible that you'll be presented with some sort of choice that you need to make.
It's going to be my Jupiter. What's up with yours?
It's on my moon.
Yeah.
It's on my angular moon and my nodes.
Okay.
All of that, which is square. So I'm dealing with a nodal square right now.
Cool. So Tuesday's going to be fun for you.
Yeah, just choices. I mean, that's just tomorrow. Choices. So
yeah, it's tomorrow. And then 3:10 p.m., Moon sextile Chiron, some opportunities for healing here.
Mhm.
And then it's like pretty quiet through the rest of the afternoon and evening until 8:44 p.m. when Moon has its ingress into Cancer. So it'll be at home here in Cancer.
Yep.
Unfortunately, around this time is when the void of course ends, and we have a Moon square to Saturn a couple hours later. Depression. But I think the big thing is there's definitely a depression there, but the void of course will be over, which will.
But the Moon is still out of bounds.
The moon is still out of bounds. So I'm saying that there's one layer that we can remove here.
Fair. The feelings are big. The feelings aren't necessarily the happiest that they could be.
No.
Or the most comfortable or the most feeling safe. I think that there's something around like safety. I mean, obviously Moon in Cancer has to deal with safety and security. But like when you have that square from Saturn, it's like there is a limit on how safe or secure one can feel.
I think there is a whole theme of like safety and our comfort zones with Tuesday. And I think that there's something to be said in that Cazimi between Sun and Jupiter in Cancer. And then that Sun quincunx to Pluto, kind of like taking you out of the safe place of like how you present yourself or like who you think you are. There's something about
dangerous.
The you good, bro?
You screwed it up.
Oh no.
It's okay, but it's like danger balls.
It's my fault.
Amazing.
The dysfunction here is always my fault.
So good. Keep me on my toes, bro.
Sid always has this space so well curated. Everything is just as. And then I come in and I just kind of throw shit around for a couple hours. And then I'm like, bye, see you next week.
It's very entertaining.
I'm glad you think so. Anyway, so I do think that there's things around safety and kind of being forced out of your comfort zone. Or just not wanting to leave your comfort zone on Tuesday. And I think that very ending aspect with the Moon square Saturn, just as the void of course ends, is kind of that where that depression or anxiety could be.
An emotional reality check.
Yeah.
This is what we're presented with.
Yeah.
And it's, pardon me, it's a cardinal square, right? So you're going to want to take some sort of action in order to maintain your sense of security and control. And also, I think that there's something a bit angry about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like you're being asked to step out of your comfort zone and you're like, I don't fucking want to.
Yeah.
Right?
And Saturn in Aries is like the least happy.
Yep. Yeah.
Definitely I think it's the most angry Saturn.
Yeah. But with Saturn, is it like repressed anger? Or
100%.
You know, it's like you're angry, but you're just gonna stuff it down.
Yeah, the clients that I've had with Saturn and Aries, I don't get a lot of the Saturn and Aries ones. I've gotten a lot of like other Saturn placements, but the few that I've had with Saturn and Aries, and I wonder if it's just because I have a Saturn Libra, so I wouldn't necessarily attract them into my life. They all have issues with their anger and how it is expressed, or whether it was expected to be repressed by like the conditioning that was placed upon them by like their family. You know, there's a lot of like traditional stuff around that. But anyways,
it is interesting. I see a lot of passive aggression with Saturn and Aries. The folks that I know, Saturn and Aries, they just like cannot handle direct confrontation to save their lives.
I mean, to think about, never mind. I don't want to talk shit about that generation, but
talking about Gen Z. Are you talking about the fucking like shit? What's the word I'm thinking of? Like the puritanical nature.
It's just it's literally the confrontation. It's like they feel very quick to call out, but never like realize that the call is coming from inside of the house.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a lot of like really strange projection, and also like
that's younger millennials too, though.
But also just expecting like for people to just like disappear or go away, and it's like actually we're all still a part of this functioning society. You can't just like be like, you're gone now, bye, because I don't like you. Like that's not how that works.
Well, and that's the other thing is they're like keyboard warriors, right? Is they're on their social media calling people out and being like holier than thou. when every single person I know who's from the Saturn and Aries generation are like the ultimate bed rotters. They're like, I'm gonna go home and lay in my bed and start a fight online.
There's also, I think they also a lot of the time go along with the Pluto Sag and the Pluto Caps.
Yeah.
That like there's yeah. Anyways, I don't mean to
wait, tell me your thoughts about Pluto Sag.
Self-righteous.
Yeah. So self-righteous.
And having to grapple with the fact that like no matter how self-righteous you are, it doesn't mean that you're right. You can kick and scream all you want, but like that's not.
And I see that's my big thing with Pluto and Sag is like just so convinced they're right.
And then there's also never like an apology once they are like called in and they're like, whoopsie, and then they just move on, like that fast fire sign. They're just like, whatever. And you're like, whoa, you just
they're like, oh, glad you figured that out. And then they just
I'm like, you just laid waste to absolutely everything.
Yeah.
So
let's move on to Wednesday, June 25th. We are starting off real strong at 12:16 a.m. with Moon in Cancer squaring off with Neptune in Aries in a cardinal square at 2 degrees.
Emotional confusion.
A lot of emotional confusion.
Feeling disillusioned. For sure. Could also, I think also because of that square from Saturn just literally an hour before, depression.
Yeah, depression. And again, I do think that this is kind of continuing the story of like moving forward versus staying in your safe space, right? Yeah. Cancer versus Aries. So that's going to be 12:16 in the morning, more like 3 a.m. for East Coast. So it may pop up in dreams. It could be a sleepless night or just generally not feeling well rested. But I think there is like some depression and anxiety here.
Yeah. And then just as an aside, I mean, not an aside, but like the big feature of the day is that this is a new moon day. So that happens at 3:31 a.m. We have a new moon in Cancer at 4 degrees. There are, I mean, that's the biggest part about this day, right? Yeah. Is this energy. There's something new forming. So it's in the 8th lunar mansion called Al Nathra, aka the Gap, with the nature of Moon and Mars.
I was reading about it this morning. It's also known as the Eagle, which I liked. But sorry, go on.
No. Yeah, I like that too. The keywords for the mansion are the pedestal, the pearl, numinous support, victorious energies, and alliance conquest, which I think is interesting considering that we're just... the kind of thing that came into my brain like intuitively, which I do not necessarily enjoy, is when it said alliances. Like what we are doing, what the US is doing, is because Israel wants us to do it,
right?
And I'm wondering if there isn't some sort of news or new alliances are forming between Iran and their alliances, and then also what's going on with us. Just a weird...
No, and I think you're onto something there, especially because I think the formation of those alliances would be pretty overdue. Like the US has had this coming for like long before this was a Trump thing, long before the genocide, long before, we're going back like 20 some odd years, pretty much since the war in Afghanistan.
Probably even before that, honestly. We're just like some big bullies.
Yeah, and we've been kind of like just being the big bully and using Israel as our satellite location.
Yeah.
In the Middle East. I maybe this is
news of...
I don't want to say long overdue because that almost makes it seem like oh, this is a good thing. I don't know what's a good thing over there. I don't know. But
yeah, we can't even pretend to know that.
No, but it does seem like we've had this coming for a long, long time.
There's Jupiter is going to be within this conjunction of the sun and the moon. Remember, a new moon is when the moon comes and kisses the sun on the lips. And it starts a whole new 28-day cycle. But Jupiter's right there too. So whatever this new start is, there is an expansive energy and overabundance of energy. However, there's still some sort of restraint or harm that's coming from Saturn because it's still within that range. These are big planets that aren't moving very fast. And so there's something there, like in all of the ways that we want to say to ourselves, like, oh yeah, a new moon with Jupiter could be really great. And Jupiter can hold its, I don't know, it can be in combust when it's exalted a lot better than when it were to be in another sign. There's still, it's Jupiter combust. It is not Cazimi.
No.
It is being squared by Saturn and Neptune. There's some issues there.
I think that it could be fortuitous.
I think it's more good than bad.
More good than, I was going to say, like, yes, more good than bad. It is fortuitous, but there's like necessary pain that has to be moved through.
Yeah.
To get to that. You know, this isn't going to be the kind of thing where it all feels good or really, really nice things happen. It could be that a nice thing happens, but there's going to be some painful purging or painful realizations that come with that new beginning.
Yeah, and the new beginning does have to do with some sort of new adjustment being made because it has this quincunx from Pluto that is happening, or it's quincunxing Pluto. So Pluto's saying, hey, I need you to change, like something on a more molecular level here, you know, a societal molecular level around the way that you want to find safety and support and, you know, justice, because Jupiter is there as well.
And also, like the moon and Cancer, that's all about like our bodies and our just like our day-to-day habits and how we nourish ourselves. So on a more interpersonal level, or just, I'm sorry, on a more personal level, it could just, there could be like some like fundamental basic thing about you that's going to change. And I think, and that's going to have to change. You're going to be forced into that change, but it is going to be a change that's ultimately, it's going to be really good, but it might feel a little hard at first.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know.
We also
look at where that new moon's happening in your chart.
Yeah. We also have a sextile from Mars. So like pretty much everything that you have between, I would say, like the 1 to 6 degree range, no matter where it is in whatever zodiac sign, is getting hit by something that is happening during this new moon, which I think is interesting. It's an interesting thought process because it means that like it's new for all of us.
Yeah.
You know, unless you don't have any planets that are even like within that range, and it's likely that you have like a house cusp or something that is any sensitive degrees around that are being affected. So I think that it's just, there's something that affects more of us more than anything.
I do think, and I think that anything that's touching that Saturn Neptune conjunction that's happening right now, even if it's just a sextile, I think that just makes it a little more volatile for sure.
New foundations. There's something very new about it with the early degrees too that feels very fresh and new. It's in the early zodiacal signs with like that Saturn Neptune almost conjunction. And then we have the cardinality of all of that, right? And also Cancer, those are in new degrees as well. So there's something obviously new forming, and also literally a new moon.
Right.
Beginnings.
Yeah. So definitely look at where this new moon is happening in your chart, what house it's in. I think it's going to be really, really telling. And I wouldn't be surprised if you look at that house and the, you know, whatever matters of life that house rules. I wouldn't be surprised if you look at that and you're like, oh man, you know what? That was due for a shakeup.
Yeah. And Uranus is also anoretic.
Yeah, Uranus, and we're going to get to that in a little. I wasn't going to bring that up yet, but yeah, Uranus is anoretic also.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you did put it in the new moon notes. So yeah, Uranus is anoretic. Like there's something, and I know you know it. If you look at that house, you're going to look at that and you're going to be like, this is the thing I've been avoiding changing. and now I can't avoid it anymore.
Right.
Right. I really like that is the energy that I'm feeling from this.
Or like it's like a liberation point where like you finally go, okay, yeah, I can do this. Like I got it. Like Uranus has this like parting message because it's been in this sign for 7 years, literally doing what it needs to do. I mean, it's been for that 7, almost 8 years in my chart, it's been going through my 9th, which is almost coincidental with like my deciding to do a deeper study of astrology. Like the whole time. And like this 29th degree has very much been for me like, do I want to continue to run with it or fuck it?
Or bug it.
Like I did that, been here, done that. For me, it feels very like I have a very critical decision to make about it. I mean, obviously I'm recording this podcast with Bender right now, so I think I'm probably going to continue. But
I hope so, because this is also one of my critical decisions.
Yeah.
So.
But it's also like, how do we want to use it, right?
Right.
Like, how do you want to use this tool? There's a lot of things that I've been thinking about with like the 9th house and my chart being in Taurus. And like, it feels very like I have to make like a solid decision, which is just kind of just me.
It still matters even if it's just you.
Yeah.
It matters a lot.
Yeah.
But don't think about
Thanks,
it.
friend.
You're welcome. But don't think about it until the moon is
I'll do it
back in bounds.
Right. Back in bounds.
Just let yourself breathe through it for now.
And the new moon for me is happening in my whole sign 11th. But in everything else, it's in my 10th house.
Yeah.
On top of my Venus.
I have nothing happening.
Which is my 9th house ruler. Cool. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Pretty consistently. Well, no. So Cancer whole sign is my 4th house, but pretty frequently it actually ends up in my 5th house, ruling my 5th house, which honestly feels accurate for me.
Yeah. Ooh, are you gonna get a new romantic entanglement?
Perhaps. Perhaps.
Can't wait to hear about that. That's exciting.
We'll see. I've already dated enough Cancers to know that I can never date a Cancer again. Sorry, I love you guys platonically. You guys work out really well for me platonically, but I'm never going to date a Cancer again.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I cannot date Cancers. I've already tried. Anyway, so look at the houses that it's happening in. It's happening somewhere between my 4th and 5th. It's happening between your 9th and 10th. So for both of us, it's kind of like dancing around our angles.
Oh, yeah.
Which is fun.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a big bad mamma jamma for both of us. But yeah, on the global scale, it also feels really big again because we've been dealing with a lot of. We're also coming up on. We're starting to get pretty close to the U.S.'s solar return, right? That's gonna be after this week. We're getting closer to that.
Yeah.
So it's just like and the U.S. is a Cancer.
Yeah.
Which. Ugh.
I think it's poignant that like during this new moon in Cancer, where us as Americans speaking about American things, which is probably the most responsible thing we can do because we can't really talk about other places because we do not live there nor are we immersed in that culture.
No.
There's something new here that is trying to be budded inside of like the Americas in America. However, all of the like I think about Pluto and Mars and Saturn all being within these adjusting, like Saturn, Mars in that adjusting energy, Pluto, Mars in that adjusting energy. Like we have to shift, but it has to be like a fine movement. And it probably still won't feel good or quite right to us. Because that's just not what this is right now.
No, it might feel like it's not enough, right? It's like, like we're gonna have to wait a little while to see the fruits of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and again with with Uranus being anaretic at the same time of this Cancer new moon, I've just been thinking about Uranus like at this point throughout U.S. history. Uranus was in Taurus during the American Revolution, leading up to when what we've decided is the US's birthday. It was also Uranus and Taurus during the Great Depression and the beginning of World War II.
Yeah, we've yet to be not in a war, a significant war, because we're always in war. A significant war during Uranus and Gemini.
Yeah, and I think that there's an important distinction to make there, because like obviously America is a country of warmongering, so like we've always been at war, and any astrology skeptic could come in and be like, okay, but U.S. has always been at war, so
we'll be like yeah, touche.
Yeah, touche. So I think there's something specific about these major moments and what it is about these particular wars in the past, because we see it during the American Civil War. We saw it just before it. World War II had started when Uranus was in Taurus, but the U.S. did not enter until it had ingressed into Gemini. Yeah. And then you see the American Revolution. Uranus was in Taurus, but Uranus, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe like 1776, when we signed the Declaration of Independence, Uranus had gone into Gemini by then.
Yes, it was in Gemini at that point.
Yeah. So what I see is with the US, Uranus and Taurus is definitely this like build-up moment for the US. It's very much like a state setting the stage. And I think that as we're getting ready to move into Uranus and Gemini, I'm thinking about what Uranus and Gemini is because it's going to be like a Uranus return. For the US. And I think there's a really big question of like, who gets to be American? I think that's the big question, because you see with the American Civil War, obviously like the major thing was slavery, and whether or not we should use slaves in the US. With the American Revolution, obviously it was like fighting to become America. But I think with World War II, what was really interesting with World War II is leading up to that, the big question was, or the reason there was hesitation for the U.S. to enter World War II was because we wanted to be very insular, and we wanted to be very nationalistic, and we kind of got dragged into World War II by Pearl Harbor. And now it's kind of funny because we're kind of right back in that place where we're like ejecting people from the U.S. and we're like, we want to go back to being very insular, and we want to go back to being more nationalistic. Obviously, things have changed a lot between World War II and now. Yeah. But I do think there's an interesting thing happening here with that new moon in Cancer and that nationalism, just as we're coming onto that precipice of that ingress from Taurus to Gemini with Uranus. Feels very pointed.
I agree. During that ingress, just as an aside, because I'm nosy, and I haven't looked at it in a little bit, Venus is going to be right there with it. So again, it still kind of gives that Uranus and Taurus energy. There's something destabilizing about resources, but maybe it's like literally the resources that we have around information. The various ways that we get information. Literally, Uranus is also like the World Wide Web. Yeah. And it's going to be opposed by a moon in Sag during the ingress, though it'll be separating, so something will be realized. Anyways, there's some juicy stuff going on with that ingress, and we'll get to that later. I think we can move on to the next day. Yeah,
Thursday, June 26th. We're at Thursday, June 26th. We are starting off at 2:44 a.m. It'll be more like 5:44 a.m. You'll probably just be waking up with this if you're East Coast. Mercury will sextile Uranus and Taurus at that anaretic degree, 29 degrees.
But also old ideas.
Yeah, right?
It's like the final word of like something that's really, really destabilizing. Like, and another thing.
I feel like it's going to be like echoing something from when Uranus was at the Aries point in Taurus, right? It's going to be like, hey, remember that little thing that happened right at the beginning of this? I'm back, kind of like coming full circle. But either way, this is definitely, since we're at that 29th degree, there's some final information that is being imparted here.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And it feels like it's going to be big just because of the new moon that happened the day before.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I think it's budding information, and the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I think that is because this is I think it's a crescent sextile, so it's just starting its like after new, it goes through and it gets to that sextile, that crescent sextile phase. So it also has the nature of like Gemini,
Mm-hmm.
very new, fresh. It's interesting that it's an old degree, like an ending degree, a critical degree. I think this is a piece of information that like we need.
Yeah.
It
Or,
is important.
yeah, and it's almost like foreshadowing. It's like you're like just a little taste of what's going to happen when Uranus does its ingress, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would, yeah, just important to pay attention to that information. I don't know if around that time there's going to be something released worldwide, but obviously more, or, be released in the media or something like that. But for you personally, this could come to you in a dream, uh, or I think it's definitely significant enough that it's going to hold until we wake up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then at 7:11 a.m.
Sun sextile Mars and Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is
Very productive.
what a great working energy.
Yeah.
Honestly.
You're going to wake up and you're going to want to go to work.
Or you're going to want to clean your whole fucking house.
Yep.
And in fact, you're probably going to want to redecorate it too, paint the walls, meal prep.
Yep. Yeah, that whole to-do list that you've been feeling like crap about, like you haven't been able to get it done because also Moon is still out of bounds and has been void of course. So you probably haven't gotten a lot done in the last few days. You're going to wake up today. Moon's going to be finally, it's still going to be out of bounds, but it's not going to be void.
Last day.
And so
last day of it.
Last day of it. Yeah. So looking at that to-do list this morning, you're going to be like, bet. Let's throw some things off of this to-do list.
And then we get a really cozy energy, Moon and Cancer sextile Venus and Taurus at 8:08 a.m., which is also really, really lovely. It's like really engaging with, it's almost like engaging with ritual that makes you feel safe and secure. It's like putting your feet in the dirt and like planting a plant. And
oh my God, gardening on this morning would be so
really lovely. Yeah.
With that Virgo and
100%.
Yeah.
So, this is our needs and our, I don't know, it's like our essential needs and also our habits being in like a great working energy. They're able to just kind of jive and flow.
And there's some like sensory joy that comes in all this. Like it's all very earthy. You've got Venus and Taurus. I think Mars and Virgo can be very sensual. So I think, it's just like a lot of like sensory tactile pleasure. And maybe just like the joy in working with your hands.
I mean, the reality is like with the aspects of Thursday versus other days, they're really quite pleasant.
Yeah, I would say Thursday is probably your best bet to have a nice day.
And also to just get things done.
Yeah.
12:09 p.m. Mercury will enter creative, playful, dramatic Leo. Which will be answering to that Sun in Cancer. So I think that there's also like that playful, dramatic energy is also emotional.
Yes.
It very much comes from like this emotional, like needing to feel secure and safe sort of way that a Leo can act when it has Cancer placements. Oh God, I would not build a chart like that for a person like that necessarily.
It's gonna be my mercurial return when Mercury enters Leo.
Listen, great storytellers. I love when you tell stories because they're like, they're like, no, they're lively. Like you're really good at, parsing out like the most important and interesting parts of them. Like, what's going to like gather the reader or the listener.
I was a theater kid. Also,
that's very Mercury. Yeah.
Thank you. I know. It's like the thing, like the compliment. Shut up. I was absolutely a theater nerd, but it's like the most consistent compliment I get. I credit actually to my Mercury in Leo, which can also just be like a pain in the ass to have. I don't think it's the best placement for Mercury, but I do have that mutual reception with the sun, like we were talking about, and Virgo is just all over my fucking chart. So I really do think it's kind of like propping my Leo up a little bit more. But yeah, if there's like a compliment I get more than anything else is that people tell me I'm a very engaging storyteller and speaker. And I'm very motivating and I give a lot of compliments. So there are nice things about it.
There are nice things about it.
Yeah. This could be a great day to honestly say something sweet to a sweetie. Genuinely. If there's a way that I can always get somebody to crush on me, it's the way I compliment them. And between this moon sextile Venus that's coming before Mercury enters Leo, I just feel like it's going to be a nice day to say something sweet to somebody, roll in the hay maybe.
Kind of a good day to shoot your shot.
Yeah. It's a good day to shoot your shot. If there's ever going to be a day that you're going to be able to like speak sweet nothings, it's going to be today.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like poetic in that kind of like nymphy sort of way.
Yeah, I agree. Or just flirt. Just throw it out there.
Just because you can.
Just because you can.
Now, don't do this around 5 p.m.
I was gonna say only do it the first half of the day.
Once we hit 1 p.m., maybe all of the shot taking, we just kind of wrap that up for the day, because we do get the moon in Cancer square Chiron in Aries.
Yep.
This can feel like some sort of emotional wounding that's like happens on like a deep kind of ego, individual sort of level. Perhaps like, you're told that how you were behaving isn't like good enough, or how you're showing up is too selfish. Yep. Or, and you're just feeling kind of criticized, like emotionally
again, I just can't, like, whenever I see Cancer and Aries squaring off, definitely anger and defensiveness, right? It's like Cancer wanting to go back in that shell.
And Aries just wanting to shoot.
Yeah, exactly. So I keep going back to this week feels a lot like comfort zone. Where are you harming yourself or harming others by staying too firmly in your comfort zone, and where do you need to step out of that?
I think we should be very careful around this time. So again, around that 5 p.m. time on Thursday, June 26th, around offering up any sort of criticisms. And also in how we express how we feel.
Yeah.
Because it could be that like in that moment we're feeling so like, selfish or insular that we don't even realize that we just said something that's like mortally emotionally wounding to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're just mired in our own stuff.
Yep.
We do have 10:16 p.m. We get the moon sextile Uranus. This is at the very last degrees. Remember, Uranus is anaretic, but I think that there's like you can make that final change to the habit. You can quit smoking. You can, take on like a new thing that you're going to be doing, and maybe it'll actually stick.
And what? On the flip side, what you were just talking about like being careful about dishing out any criticism.
Yeah.
That moon sextile Uranus, I'm not saying it's going to feel good, but if you do receive criticism, I think this is a good moment to receive that criticism. Maybe avoid trying to dish out the criticism, but if you receive criticism at this time.
Right, and being able to go, you know what, actually that's right, I need to shift here.
Yeah,
I need to just drop whatever this thing is. I just need to change it up.
Yeah.
And this is the moon in Cancer, right? So it's at the very last degree before it enters Leo. So the moon in Cancer being very defensive, maybe it needs to drop that.
Yeah.
It needs to drop a layer of it and get a little bit more realistic with itself around like, maybe I'm holding on to my blankie too tight.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they had a point there.
11:05 p.m. last thing of the day, we get the moon entering, again, dramatic, playful, creative Leo.
Yep.
But the moon in Leo becomes all about me. And which will be answering to, and then we get this interesting mutual reception between the sun in Cancer and the moon in Leo. So depending on how intentional and cognizant we want to be about our choices, we can kind of swap those energies. So now we have like a really, proud and playful Leo sun and a intuitive and passionate and caring moon in Cancer. But if we just let it run rampant, it could be a lot of, almost emotional outbursts at the risk of alienating other people just so you can feel safe.
Yep.
Fun.
I don't know. I kind of like Thursday. I think even with that Chiron square,
I don't hate it. I just think that there's a sensitivity that's offered later on in the day that if you aren't careful on how you either deliver it or
receive it,
like that aside, it's pretty great.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I would say if you want to make like a man, brunch would be so good on that Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, so Thursday's going to be pretty nice. All right, so we're moving on to Friday, June 27th.
That's Venus's day.
It's Venus's day.
She's still in Taurus.
She is. So Venus is happy right now.
Oh, thank God. But
she's a happy lady.
She's also not like for Friday in particular, she's not really aspecting a lot, which I think is kind of interesting. Like she there's a little bit of stuff with the nodes.
She's getting close to Uranus. Is Uranus going to ingress before she hits it?
You know, I did not look at that particular piece of movement. Look at that. I think yeah, they don't meet until Gemini.
Okay. But still, she's flirting with Uranus right now.
Yeah, there's like whispers of like shaking things up. However,
she's trembling.
Yeah, it's almost like trying to finish something up around that cycle.
Yeah.
But you know, Venus in Taurus is all about the kind of like money, honey. And you know what
and self-love
and
self-respect, right? Sorry, go on.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's right. And the kind of security that is, it's simple, right? This isn't like a complicated thing. Like Venus and Taurus. This is, do I have the food I like? Do I have a, you know, relatively safe and almost, I want to say like modest, but it looks nice home around me? Is everything just kind of simple and I don't need to change anything? That's kind of what it feels like to me. Taurus placements in general. It's like, just so, it doesn't need to change. Thank you.
But it was very carefully curated, which is why there's like a protectiveness around it, right? Like, don't change it because I worked really hard to get it. Like,
yeah, it's not broke.
Yeah. It's not broke, don't fix it.
It's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. But of course, Uranus is still nearby and being like, well,
what if we did it anyway? What if you need to be liberated from some of that security and safety shit you got around? Which I think is, I think that's about money. Anyways.
Yeah. So that's the condition of Venus on Friday. Should we talk about some of the moon stuff happening before?
Yeah, let's.
There's a lot happening in the first, like in the morning, and then it's like pretty quiet. So let's talk about Friday morning.
Yeah.
We're starting 12:13 a.m. We're popping off with Moon in Leo conjunct Mercury. So we've got Moon and Mercury in Leo. So definitely
likes her stories.
Yeah. It could just mean like cool dreams, right?
Creative dreams.
Playful dreams. Yeah. This is creative, playful energy. Especially with Mercury, it's like a little mischievous, you know. Moon and then it sobers up.
Yeah.
Right. 2 a.m. We have Moon trine Saturn in Aries.
But it's almost like it
feels very much like this is who I am.
It's grounded.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you can be responsible about how much you output with that Moon in Leo, right? The Moon in Leo unchecked is very much like, I need all of the intention in the world. You have to give it to me.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to feel safe and secure. Right. Yeah. And that's at its like most shadow thing.
Yeah.
But when it has the Saturn, it's like, you know what? Actually, I need to like be a responsible wielder of this moon and use it for good.
Yep.
And also use it for like literally creative and intuitiveness, like because it's that fire trine, right? It's passionate.
Right.
And there's like a direction and a focus. It's like there's a focused creativity that exists here.
And that, and it's shortly after it's followed by a Moon trine Neptune in Aries, which I do think actually, while the Neptune can cause some fogginess, I think that actually reinforces what you're saying.
Dreamy intuitiveness.
Like a focused, dreamy intuitiveness, because it's going to be following right after that Saturn.
Right. Like I know what foundations I'm trying to set and what I'm trying to do. And here's the dream and the focus around it.
Like it's the most productive kind of surroundings for Neptune in that moment, right?
Agreed.
But again, this is also happening before we even hit 3 a.m. So you're either going to be like just waking up with this energy, or this is going to be happening if you're unconscious, or obviously if you are a person who's typically up at those hours, this will apply.
I feel like it's like you wake up inspired.
Yeah. Yeah. You just wake up feeling fresh.
Yeah. And like really needing to get like, I know what I need to do in this day in order to
Yep.
support my inspiredness.
Yep.
Like it's
Yep.
fiery, it's passionate. Like there's a
Right.
lot of fire in the sky happening at that time. 4:39 a.m. we get the moon opposite Pluto in Aquarius. Now there is something here that needs to be eliminated.
Mm-hmm. Oh, another important thing though is this is also right around the time that uh, moon will come back into bounds, isn't it?
Moon comes back
Did you
into
mention
bounds.
that? Sorry, maybe I
No, no,
didn't.
no.
Yeah,
No, that's like right
because
around the trine from Saturn and Neptune. So
yeah,
maybe like now.
which will again, you'll wake up feeling inspired. Things are finally back in bounds. Things aren't like super conflated,
Mhm.
right? Sorry, but go ahead. That just
but
felt.
but the moon Pluto opposition,
Mm-hmm.
that does feel like a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
That does feel like an emotional crisis, being like kind of thrown or presented with some sort of like power and control dynamic
Yep.
emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
feeling manipulated perhaps.
Yeah, I think there can be some manipulation that, what we were just talking about. There's a lot of this like fresh, grounded energy of like, this is who I am, this is my focus. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that moon opposite Pluto can kind of be like, there are things outside of
Other
you,
forces at play.
other forces at play that's gonna throw you off course a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
which feels not great for Leo.
Well, and also
Leo will be annoyed by
Leo will be really annoyed by it.
that.
However, if the opposition does what it needs to do and the moon does the work that Pluto is asking, it's almost like to drop some of like the bigger ego stuff
Mm-hmm.
in order to be like an active creative citizen,
Yep.
to like really show up and like I'm me, I'm special, but also all of you
Mm-hmm.
are, worthy of that sort of love and praise as well.
Right. Yeah. I'm me and I'm special, but I'm not more special than you.
Yeah.
Right. These are the ways you're special. And also, I'm me and I'm special, but that doesn't mean that I have to use my talents to just be self-serving.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like I have to consider that I'm me and I'm special. How does this apply to
Mm-hmm.
my role
Yeah.
in the bigger picture?
Moon Pluto oppositions in a natal chart can definitely be emotional, like very like passionate emotional outbursts,
Mm-hmm.
and like almost like feeling emotionally violent.
I was going to say, you can just be straight up mentally ill if you have Moon Pluto opposition in your chart. I believe it.
Yeah.
Because it's like your day to day.
I mean, I think it also really depends on whether it is an approaching or separating aspect. I think approaching
Absolutely,
probably
and
a
like
little
in
bit
what
more on the
signs? Yeah.
mental illness stuff or emotional
Mm-hmm.
illness of some sort, and versus if it were in a separating, it would be like I have an awareness of how passionate I
Mm-hmm.
feel and how maybe even emotionally I really feel like it's like feeling emotionally manipulated and wanting to strike out as a
Good.
result of it.
Feels like mommy issues.
Oh, I mean, Moon Pluto oppositions are mommy
Yeah,
issues
mommy issues.
in
So
a natal
like, how did
chart.
your mommy manipulate you?
Yeah, and yeah,
So just keep that in mind when we're talking about what this transit's going to feel like. Uh, think of it as a moment of mommy issues.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely some emotional volatility. It's an opposition, so there can be a balance struck. There can be a meeting of minds between Moon and Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that oppositions are still easier to work with than squares,
Mm-hmm.
personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a little bit volatile. And then we have our big Venus moment of the day, which is why we started off talking about the condition of Venus, which Venus is happy right now.
She is, however, she's going to be at a critical degree, which is the
Yep.
22-degree fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And she was going to be trying the South Node. So there's some news when we have critical degrees. There's something around, I think this has to do with money and markets.
Yep.
Especially with that like South Node in Virgo being ruled by Mercury, which definitely has to do with trade and markets.
Yep.
Venus being in Taurus, trying the South Node is going to facilitate some sort of like letting go, some sort of release.
Yep. Yeah, South Node, definitely there's a release happening there.
Yeah.
Something that you're just like throwing out into the void.
Yeah, and this is a Yeah, Betty.
Oh,
It's in the
Betty's
was.
dreaming.
And because these are in earth signs, it has to do with, practical things. It has to do with material resources, perhaps.
Yep.
And there's some important data here. So it'll be very interesting to see kind of what comes up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an earth trine. Oh my god. You guys, you're so
Are you just
cute.
trying to see if she's asleep?
You're just making sure she's okay.
Yeah, she's okay.
She's just dreaming.
And then yeah, I guess is there
Yeah.
any
Earth trine, so there's definitely it's gonna be tangible. You're right. It's gonna be around money, resources, something like that.
yeah.
Maybe like whatever work you've done or haven't done to
Yeah.
accumulate some resources.
Maybe there's some like news around resources. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that we know, like not to bring it
Like,
back to war, but
well, we're in a moment of potential war, so
we have to remember that every time we go into war, a recession occurs.
yep.
And so I wonder if this is like news about recession.
Yeah, and I'm thinking because it's the Virgo South Node.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost like it's bringing me back to like back in like World War II times when people were still patriotic and they were like, oh, we're going to war, like you need to ration and buy war bonds
right.
to support our war efforts, and everybody was like really proud to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like everybody was proud to be rationing, proud to be buying war bonds. Like it was a point of pride to say like I'm an American and therefore
Mm-hmm.
I'm eating rice and beans for the next however long, whatever it was. That's kind of what it feels like. Is it's like, are we being asked to martyr ourselves?
Yeah.
For the greater good, right? Whether or not you agree with that.
Yeah, and Venus is definitely getting closer to Uranus. So there's, something destabilizing, especially the closer that she gets to Uranus and Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
That's like changing here. And let's see, Mars is co-present with the South Node, which is like just bringing there's some maleficness here. They're not in what's it called, degree aspect yet.
Right.
And that's something we get to talk about in a few weeks' time because that chart is really fascinating.
Yeah.
But there's definitely something important here that occurs, pretty much on this day that has to do with the South Node in Virgo. I mean, also the North Node, right? It's still facilitating the North Node in Pisces.
Yep.
It's just by sextile. So it's less, I would say, less powerful or less apparent as to what we're building versus what we're letting go.
Yeah, it's supportive in the sense of whatever we're letting go is definitely opening up space for what the North Node needs space for.
Yeah.
Right? Which is where that sextile is coming in.
Yeah.
But yeah, the trine, it's a little bit more focused on the trine where that letting go needs to happen in order to facilitate that. But it's very well understood. Like there's a knowing of why we're letting this go.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes I think of Pluto when it's like something has to die and you don't know what's like something's going to be reborn here, but you don't know yet, right? Because it all has to be obliterated first. This is a lot more like we're letting this go because we can see on the North Node what we need to be making space for.
Yeah. And, just remembering too that Jupiter's still combust, is still very close to the sun. So there's still a lot of this stuff around protection and nurturing and homeland and the safety and security that we need, that we are so like pointing ourselves to, is being exacerbated by this Jupiter wanting to kind of spread its wings. And so I do continue to think, and Jupiter has to do with economy stuff. So again, I think it does have to do with money. And we will see. We won't know until we see. That's why we say these things.
Yep. And then again, it's just like pretty quiet most of the day. Do you want to talk about those quintiles?
Nah, I mean they're just kind of creative and facilitating.
It'll probably be nice since Venus is going to be having that trine earlier in the day.
Yeah.
Just like some creative energy to work with that.
Yeah.
But then the last major aspect of the day really doesn't come until close to 9 p.m. At 8:52, we have Mercury trining Saturn. at a critical degree, right?
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it's in the first degree,
mhm.
so 0 to 1. I always wonder if it's like 0 to
Does it
1
stop right at the
or
one?
does it stop at the 2?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think people could agree,
This
like,
is
argue about it.
yeah. We did argue about this once because the is it 21 degrees or is it 22 degrees that is critical? Like
It
if you're
depends.
past
It depends
22
on whether it
degrees,
is cardinal, mutable,
got it.
fixed, or they all have different critical points, and they all have different world points, and they're not the same.
No.
I have them written down because my brain like won't.
Can you give me that one?
Yeah, 100%.
Great.
But Mercury trine Saturn, so there is like some sort of like foundation being created around our ideas.
Yep.
Some sort of security being like some good like a limit. And there's definitely something very creative and very passionate about Mercury trine Saturn.
Creative and ego driven.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like it's about like your creative self or what are you birthing? What are you creating? What are you gestating right now?
I think it's like getting on a soapbox.
Yeah.
Because we have
hell yeah.
Right? Because like Mercury trine Saturn and thus Neptune. So like this is like, my beliefs and, my vision, and this is the foundation of the future. There's something, with that Neptune thing, like kind of futuristic. It's in the first sign, this new thing, this new idea being birthed, and I did it.
Yeah, it's very much like it's mine.
Yeah, there's just something there, and
it's like Dr. Frankenstein like laughing over his creation as like the monster is sitting up. He's like, I've done it,
but like we don't really quite know, like with Saturn being in not great condition, right? Because it's conjoining, it's not quite there yet with Neptune, which is like the kind of a big malefic, but also Saturn is a malefic, and it's in its fall.
Yep.
Like, is this idea actually legit?
Well, that's kind of why, because like Mercury's not happiest in Leo either. So it's really, that's why I kind of thought of like Frankenstein's monster. It's almost this like delusional kind of like nothing can stop me kind of thing. And it's like you're really just like in your shit and not paying attention to what's going on around you. That would be very like Leo and Aries, right? Where it's like, I am just focusing on my shit.
Yeah.
And I'm not aware of the fact that I've just created a monster, right?
Yeah. And we also should know that, Mercury is getting very close to an opposition to Pluto here. And so like he's feeling really strongly. He's feeling
a little manic.
He's real intensely about these things, and it's not exact. So like that energy in the sky can also, I think, have people feeling pretty fired up and a little bit argumentative as well.
Yeah.
Really wanting to defend one's like feelings, or not feelings, thoughts. From some sort of outside. Don't box me in, man. Like,
you don't even know me. Kind of vibe.
Yeah. So there's something there. What else?
I would say just like look out for overconfidence. Right? In what you're saying. Like you could be really, really sure that you're right now. And maybe you are. But
you sure have the ability to speak with authority on this day.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I'm excited for this day.
Like, it feels like busting into the boardroom and being like, I have the idea.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, that's genius. Yeah. And you're like, I rule the world.
Yeah. And like, what I love about that is that's how you're going to imagine it going.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't mean that's how it's going to go. We're talking about 2 fire signs here. There's no earth to be seen. So it's definitely just like, yeah, you think this is going to work great. And yeah, I do think that's like, and I do feel like that's going to be like kind of the funky flavor of Saturn and Aries, whereas Saturn is usually like very sobering. I do think there's going to be moments like these where, because Saturn is so debilitated in this sign, that it's going to be like, yeah, that seems right. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's not right.
It's only like benefit right now is that its ruler Mars is in Virgo, which is a little bit more analytical and critical and like thinking through the fine details.
And they're having Antisha right now.
Yeah, they're having some there's some like sign-based Antisha. Later on they'll actually be in Antisha. So there is some sort of like understanding here that is happening. Oh, that's interesting because never mind. I'll think about that later.
And also with Virgo being ruler of Mercury. So yeah, this could be an interesting trine.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so.
yeah. So anyway, that's gonna be the most significant. That and the Venus trine to the South Node. So like Friday's not gonna be insignificant. But I would say mood wise, you're gonna see the biggest like mood shifts earlier in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to have that Venus trine, and then it's going to be pretty quiet until later in the evening.
Yeah.
With that Mercury Saturn trine.
Yeah.
So should we move on to Saturday?
Yeah.
You have more to say?
I just feel like we're feeling really definite about the things that we're thinking.
Yeah.
And we really, really are feeling fired up to communicate those things.
Yep.
And to be respected as like, you know, some sort of authority in some sort of way, or people, you expect people to take your word for what it is.
Yep.
But there is, I think, in danger here, if only because Saturn is in Aries.
Yeah. You could also come off as being like
braggalicious,
braggy. I was gonna say you could. I think Aries with
arrogant.
Arrogant.
There's that word.
That was the word I was thinking.
There's that
arrogance.
word.
And arrogance, almost like too bossy.
Oh,
you know?
100%. This is big boss energy.
Yeah, big boss energy. But yeah. With the trine, it could be well received. Like it could be that everybody's like, oh shit, that person's in charge. We should listen to them.
Yeah.
All the more reason
to be careful.
To be careful and pay attention to the details, Mercury and Leo. I'm looking at you. You know, make sure you're double checking your details before you're speaking with confidence. Okay, now we're going to Saturday, June 28th. Also a fairly quiet day. There's not like a ton of aspects going on, but we are starting off strong with another Mercury trine at 4:58 a.m. So this is, you know, energy you'll be waking up with is Mercury trine Neptune.
Intellectual stimulation and creativity.
Yeah, creativity, communicating creatively. Oh, great day to write some poetry.
I feel like it's like being a beat poet.
Yeah, absolutely it is. For sure. Yeah, it's uniquely communicating things. I think it's also really interesting, like you're going to go to bed with that Mercury trine to Saturn, and then you're going to wake up with this Mercury trine to Neptune, right? So you've got all this like speaking with authority and this confidence that you go to bed with, and then you wake up and you have this Neptune trine where it's like you can really start getting creative with whatever you've been trying to solidify in your thoughts the day before. You're now starting to get really creative with it.
It almost feels like being able to write a manifesto.
Yeah, right. I'll be
self-indulgent.
I love Mercury Neptune shit. I love it. I think it's, especially with Mercury being in Leo, just like abundant opportunities for creativity, abundant opportunities for flirting. Sorry, but this Mercury Neptune trine is going to be flirtatious as hell.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And very convincing.
Oh yeah. Like
very convincing. And then
you're gonna be on your game.
I mean, if you just consider that like that energy, because Mercury isn't as fast as the moon, like literally that holds all day. So like this can also feel very social.
Yes, very social.
You know, you go to
very social, but in this like really fun, dreamy way. You know, where it's like it could be a day where like you just like have these conversations and you feel inspired by those conversations. Yeah. You know, which Mercury and Leo just loves.
Yeah. And then if we go into the late afternoon, like early evening, 5:23 p.m., Moon and Leo square Venus and Taurus. Now this I think is really indulging in things that make you feel comfortable and make you feel like, you know, safe, and also make you feel like opulent and rich.
Yes.
I feel like this is indulging in all of the things that make you feel happy, no matter what they are.
Yeah.
Is it treats? Is it shopping? It feels like you spend too much money.
Yeah. Spend too much money
on the things that bring you joy.
And that's the thing, is like I've known so many Leos and Tauruses who are friends, and I think that Leo and Taurus actually get along really well, but it's almost like the thing where they really like each other, and everyone on the outside is like, those two are trouble together. You know?
That's funny.
They're just overindulgent. I know that you're a little different. You're sitting there like, Fucking Leos.
Well, no, because like one of my favorite people on this planet is a Leo, and she is like so good at being social, and she has like I've never actually seen her whole chart. I've never asked because I feel like a Leo will offer it to you if they want you to see it.
Yeah.
So I just don't. I don't even care. But like
Leos can actually be so private.
Yeah, I mean, she has to have a ton of like, she has to have some Libra stuff going on because she's so like socially gracious and considerate of everyone else around her. It's just really, it's so very delightful to be in her presence because it's not like me, like she's regal.
Yeah.
Like, which is so funny too because the Leo archetype, right, is a big cat.
Yep.
And her name is Kitty.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and she's just wonderful. And she always has like when we were performing back in the day, like really big hair, like the whole.
So she has a mane.
Bright colors, like the whole, always like a redhead of some sort, you know, like the whole.
This feels like very evolved Leo energy.
Very. Oh yeah. No, I think she's very much a evolved
Leo.
But yeah. So in any case,
I feel like evolved Leos would be so healing for you.
Oh, they're so fun.
Yeah.
They're so lovely.
Yeah.
And they like, generous and kind and also really good boundaries that fixity can happen. But the moon, just to go back to the chart because I can digress. I love you, Kitty. Moon in Leo square Venus in Taurus, you know, again, that's indulgent. It does feel very indulgent.
It could feel nice. There will be consequences later.
And also just like creative, like literally creative. Like you can, you know, suddenly create some like art or something that you think is beautiful. This square feels like the color gold.
Yeah, it does.
Just the color gold.
Just like getting blinded by the light a little bit.
And then at 10:41 p.m., this is the last aspect of the day. It is because it's essentially like, think of it as like a slow day because there's so few bigger aspects happening. We have the moon trine Chiron, which is, you know, intuitive and connected and very empathetic.
Yeah. And I feel like paired with that Mercury Neptune trine earlier in the day, there's just a lot of opportunity for healing and like really reaching to those deepest places.
Yeah. And there's just like
finding beauty in the healing.
Yeah. And there's like just kind of a sensitivity or like, when I think of moon trine Chiron, because like, you know, Chiron is like the wounded healer and blah, blah, but he's also like the teacher.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And the person that can see like the fine details and then help you fix them.
Yep.
Even if they can't necessarily do it for themselves, they can do it for you because they see it in you.
Yep.
And so that's where that empathy kind of comes from, which I think empathy is a very like fine detailed, it feels very Virgo to me. Fine detailed kind of thing. And so, you know, the moon trine Chiron, it's almost refines that maybe the shadow parts of a moon in Leo into something that's far more like generous.
Yes. It like pushes Leo into its evolved state, right? Because everyone knows like the best Leos are the most generous people.
Yeah.
And they are the most complimentary.
Warm.
And the warmest.
Loyal.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think it's going to be the opportunity to like really wherever Leo is in your chart or however you express your Leo, this is the opportunity to kind of like take it up to a higher vibration a little bit.
100%.
Yeah. Think about how the ways that you think you're special and then apply that to how you think everybody around you is so special.
Yeah. That's always the question that a Leo should ask. It's like, acknowledge your own special, but then also acknowledge everybody else's, and you'll find like that nice little balance and like the really specialness about being a Leo, which is like the sun just shines on you.
I do think that I've reached that level, that particular part of it with my Mercury in Leo, because I genuinely just deeply love giving compliments to people, and I'm really good at it. And people are always like, "You make me feel so good about myself," and I'm like, "I know,"
which feeds both sides of that Leo.
Both sides,
so good, it? Amazing. Sunday, June 29th. Well. 12:57 a.m. we have Mercury opposite retrograde Pluto.
And again, Saturday is going to be nice, but we are going to be building up to this opposition all of Saturday, and then it's going to perfect on Sunday.
Intellectual volatility.
Yeah.
Intellectual criticalness. This is, could be feeling very almost attacked intellectually,
or feeling like you need to attack. Right.
This is also being thrown into an awareness of how deep you need to be, like, thinking about something. This is also just literally thinking obsessively.
That's the biggest thing, is like ruminating.
This is obsession. This is an obsession aspect. Anything that touches Pluto, especially in the like very like Ptolemaic aspects, right? The trine, the conjunction, sextile, and opposition. I mean, the conjunction isn't actually an aspect, but whatever. We don't need to talk about that right now. But Mercury is going real deep. He's mulling over absolutely everything. And probably there's always, because Mercury is in Leo, I think he feels embarrassed.
Yeah. I think that Mercury,
maybe he spoke out of turn with all of that trine stuff that was going on.
I mean, yeah, like got a little overly confident, and then woke up the next day and was like, "Why?
Too big for your britches.
Why did I do that? Why?"
Yeah.
I have a harsh Mercury Pluto aspect in my natal chart.
Yeah.
And when you were like, maybe he's embarrassed, I was like, oh. Ouch. Oh, no. It is. It's like feeling very overly confident, and just like Mercury and Leo can be any Mercury fire sign can be so impulsive with the way they communicate. And it's really can be a toss up depending on how that Mercury is aspected, how it's received, or how good it actually comes out. Right. And so, yeah, there can be, if there's a situation where you're a little overly confident, like Mercury trine Neptune, yeah, I think that definitely, like, the fallout that can come from after that is, oh my God. Or like Mercury trine Neptune, you can be like so vulnerable, right? It's not even that you said the wrong thing or you spoke out of turn. It's just that you decided to be really, really vulnerable with somebody.
Yeah.
And then the next day you're like, should I have done that?
Yeah.
Right. Oh no. Did I make myself unsafe? Right. That's what that can feel like. Yeah. With Mercury and Leo. And that's where that embarrassment can come from, right? It's like, oh, was I too vulnerable? Was I too honest? Yeah. Right.
And then at 4:02 a.m. we have the moon in Leo square Uranus in Taurus.
So just more of that.
I think that's more embarrassment. Yeah. There's more feeling emotionally shocked, because you potentially went a little bit too far, and now there's, needing to change in some sort of way, and being met with that change, and you're like, oh fuck, man.
Or whatever you did triggered a change. Yeah. And now you're coping with that change.
This is like a forced habit change. Yeah. You have to change. It is a fixed square. That does not feel good.
Nope.
This definitely has to do
with it's something external is going to happen that forces that change.
Yeah.
With the fixed squares. Yeah. God love you, fixed people.
And then at 4:43 a.m. the moon enters tummy ache, Virgo.
God, why did she have to come now? Right.
So,
as if there wasn't enough anxiety.
Yeah, anxious, feeling criticized, also feeling critical.
So now we've put the Leo away, right? Confident, creative, impulsive Leo is now getting tossed over, getting
the leash
folded up.
Restraint now occurs.
And now Virgo is like, why did Leo fucking do that? Yeah. Right. And now I have to go and I have to clean up Leo's mess. Yep. Like that's what Moon and Virgo can feel like coming after whatever bullshit Moon and Leo does. Yeah. Yeah. So there's definitely the sense of like feeling like you need to clean up the mess, whatever mess you made.
And this is why you become like more service oriented. Yeah. Right. Like, let me fix it.
Yeah. Let me go over to your friends and be like, hey, remember that thing I said yesterday? Yeah. We don't have to worry about that, right?
It's like,
what can I do to fix
this?
The
moon in Leo was at the party, like standing on the tables, being like, yeah, like spilling drinks everywhere. And then in the morning, like Moon in Virgo wakes up and goes, oh fuck, I have to clean the table.
I have to clean the table.
Yeah. And I have to apologize.
Yeah.
There's definitely like
Yeah, I have to
I have
apologize.
to
I
apologize.
have to
I feel
apologize.
embarrassed. I feel like I have to
I
make
feel I
penance.
feel responsible,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not just like I feel like a responsible person. Like no, I feel like I'm responsible for damage that's been done.
Yeah.
Even and that's like the sad part for Virgo is like a lot of times it's not actually your fault.
Thankless.
Yeah.
Thankless work. I also think like the moon in Leo is like, I'm up in the sky, I'm shiny, I'm
Yeah.
bright. And then moon in Virgo is like, I'm down to earth.
Yeah.
Shit.
The moon just fell
Right. Like
to the earth.
it's just like the sun got popped and like
yeah.
deflated because it like
Yep.
it blew up too big. It went
Yep.
too far.
Right. Now there is some hope here because at 1:12 p.m. Moon in Virgo will sextile Jupiter in Cancer, which I do think is going to encourage us to go back to what we know.
I think this
right?
has to do with healing.
Yeah, I was gonna say go back to what we know, the good things that we know, not the things we need to release, but go back to what works. And yeah, like how can we heal from whatever wound we gave ourselves the day before?
And almost like there's some sort of, moon in Virgo needs to analyze. And in that sextile with Jupiter and Cancer, there's, an affinity because the rulership, right, to this beautiful Jupiter. I mean, it's being restrained, but whatever. Let's just forget about that.
It's still Jupiter and Cancer.
Let's
it's still beautiful.
Forget about
Saturn. Oh, Saturn loves being forgotten about.
Right. But, there's something maybe a little bit more forgiving, a little bit more healing. It's able to make, the soup that fixes the tummy.
Yeah.
It feels maybe a little bit more confident in the decisions that it makes. It doesn't feel as self-critical. Instead, it just like sees the problem and it's able to just go, okay, I stand in my truth. I'm going to go fix it now.
Yeah. Oh,
wouldn't it be nice?
I stand in my truth and I'm gonna go fix it now.
Right? There's something healing when I think about like that sextile, like having the nature of Venus, like which can be very like healing and pleasant. Right, with Jupiter and Cancer, which is like all about pleasantness.
Yeah. And Cancer appreciates the critical nature of Virgo because Cancer wants to validate all feelings all the time, right? So this is definitely like a validating of feelings where even if they're not good feelings, Jupiter and Cancer is going to come in and be like, yeah, that felt bad, didn't it?
There's also, it's like nourishing.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
That's
a nourishment.
Yeah, where Virgo's like, this is so bad. And it's like, yeah, it felt bad, didn't it? But that doesn't mean you're bad.
Yeah.
It means the feeling is bad.
Jupiter and Cancer is giving the moon in Virgo a hug.
Yeah.
It's okay, buddy.
And that's why I really love having Cancers as friends.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so it's pretty quiet through the rest of the afternoon until we get to early evening, 6:13 p.m. Moon will conjunct Mars, which is nice. It's like got that little reprieve with Cancer, and then it's like, okay, now I can get back into it
and get some stuff done. However, there could be some spicy criticisms being thrown.
Absolutely.
Moon Mars contacts, especially in the conjunction or like the square. Like
it could also be like go and get a break, and Cancer makes you feel better, and then you're like, okay, now I'm gonna go back to fucking hating myself.
Yeah. So, it's afflicted. That's an afflicted moon. And, moon in Virgo is already kind of a worry wart.
Yep.
And it's like, now let's dig into all the details of the ways that I fucked up. So like, or
like, let me go into like panic mode and try and like really try to fix this.
Yeah.
And just try to like do something proactive.
Yeah.
To make me feel like I'm fixing the situation.
Yeah. But I think, really until I'm guessing probably about 2 p.m. like we get that sextile from the moon to Jupiter, which can be more pleasant. And then things get a little hyphy in the evening with that moon conjunct Mars, but it still can be working energy. So I don't want to remove that from the benefit of having moon Mars. It's like can feel it quickly. We'll shoot out its little word barb real quickly.
Yeah. And like it's
and also towards itself.
and towards itself.
Like, try not to be self-abusive. Like, try not to abuse yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's like the fine line that Virgo always has to walk, right? Like, especially Mars and Virgo. I think there's a great opportunity, especially if you have like natal Mars and Virgo, to turn that shit inward and to just attack yourself all the time, and be like your own parasite. But I think the flip side of that is that Virgo is a highly productive, work-oriented sign. And so if you can get that Mars conjunction to work in your favor, if you can really like use that sextile to Jupiter on this day, to really take the opportunity to heal and get yourself into a place of not self-deprecation, then it can be very productive. So I think like on a more personal level, look at like the condition of anything you have going on that's Virgo.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have good Virgo stuff, I think it's good. If you're a sad boy, like my Virgo stuff is hard because all my Virgo, it's like Jupiter and Venus in Virgo. Yeah. You know, that's pretty.
Sometimes I think about the spiritual ramifications of why. Yeah.
What do you think?
I think like one
and this is the thing, I always Moon and Libra, I'm always looking outward and asking other people because I'm afraid, because like my thing is I'm like, clearly I was a piece of shit in a past life.
I don't think it's
now I'm paying penance, and I'm like, but that's such a self-critical Virgo thing to think.
I don't necessarily think it's like we're a piece of shit, but it sounds like when we see, I think from an evolutionary standpoint, we see a lot of Virgo placements. There is a refining that in an analysis of, you know, previous energies that is happening, and it's being refined into something that is better. There was something that went over the top. There was a little bit too much, that Leo thing, whether it was too far in one way, which is like you know, being self-inflated and like me, or literally shrinking away.
Yeah.
And like being like, no, meek as a mouse, because those are the two shadows of Leo.
Exactly.
Like a lot of people don't think about that with like Leo placements, is that they can be really shy and withdrawn, but they can be. Yeah. And they can just kind of trap.
I actually see that more often than I see over the top Leos.
I feel like I've seen both, like pretty
like
equally.
I've seen both, but and like clearly this just speaks to like who the kinds of people that we find ourselves attracted to, but especially like Leo rising. That's the most surprising thing to me, is almost every Leo rising I know. Sorry, you're gonna have to edit that. Every Leo rising I know is shy.
Well, and it also depends on their sun too, right? Like that's going to give it more information. And, you know, there's something like I mean, I don't necessarily think that the rising sign is like the personality we put on.
Right.
But I think there's a piece of it that exists. But I think it really has to, with Leo risings, I think that there absolutely has to do with like they're playing the role. Like that play thing, right? And the creativity of whatever their sun is in. So unless they literally, like if you have sun in Leo and a Leo rising.
I've never met one.
I've met one.
Yeah, how'd it go?
And it's like
one of my favorite,
unrestrained by Mars or Saturn. You know?
And you know what, TBH, one of my favorite placements is a Leo rising with Aquarius sun. Love it. I get along so well with those people, but absolutely that's going to make someone much more of a inward and Leo.
And also fair more like balanced energy. Yeah. You know, there's something, because it like automatically throws into the 7th house. So like there's like brings in some Libra stuff going on, a lot of weird air energy and like very cerebral. But all that to say,
let's see how much of that gets edited out.
Who knows?
Who's to say? It's the moon's also
probably, and it's so void.
We're just chatting.
Oh
today.
My god!
So where were we on Sunday? Oh yeah.
So then we get.
So yeah, that we were at Moon conjunct Mars. That's then on that. Go on.
8:54 p.m. Moon sextile Sun.
Eat.
So this is again the like emerging of the realizing of ideas, right? Because it's the moon in
Virgo. Sexiling Sun in Cancer.
So I think that sextile is like we know how we want to go forward
Yeah.
and to close up, or to open up the cycle.
Well, and I think it's also important to
Oh,
keep
it's a
in mind.
crescent. It's a crescent. It's new ideas about how it wants to do this cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I
And
was
we
going to
and we
ask you about
can't,
this.
this week is the new moon in Cancer.
Yeah.
Uh, so
The moon in Virgo goes, I know how to make this work.
yeah, it's like taking that new idea, whatever new Cancerian thing, and we're talking about like how new ways to feel safe, kind of letting go of uh, whatever our sense of safety was before and walking into a new one. And yeah, I think that Virgo is here being like, yeah, I know
Yeah.
how to make that happen.
Yeah.
I can fix that.
Yeah, I mean, but I do think there is an emotionality to all of this. Like looking at the chart for Sunday, we have Mercury still operationally opposite to Pluto.
Yep.
We still have the moon having made a quincunx to Pluto. So that's anxiety. Like these are, and Pluto can just add anxiety to no matter what it touches anyways.
Yep.
And then we still have that Sun Mars sextile, which, the moon, sorry, Mars does not like the sun right now because it's in the sign of its fall. So it's
Right.
like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want, I'm not going to do that, but like we're going to go forward. It can just add some, I think, anger stuff, feeling criticized, feeling really emotional.
Well, and I think feeling criticized, like that's whenever we talk about anger with Cancer, I always go back to it's defensive anger, right? It's like I have to protect myself. Oh wait, that doesn't.
I know. These are the last days, so yeah. It'll be fine.
Okay, great.
And then there's still, let's see, what else do we got here? Yeah, Mercury is still within that trine to the Neptune Saturn. There could be an inflated sense of one's ideas that also are pretty passionate, and also feeling kind of criticized or feeling some sort of intensity or happening. There's a lot of energy in the sky that says this doesn't feel easy by any state of anything.
No,
I don't think that Sunday feels easy.
No, Sunday's not going to feel easy.
But, hopefully you can, with that moon in Virgo, that little working moon going chugga chugga choo choo, I got to get this done anyways. I got to dust myself off and, try again. You'll be able to get some stuff done.
It could be productive. It just won't necessarily feel good.
Won't necessarily feel good.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Monday. Finally, we have Monday, June 30th. It's a pretty quiet day.
It's a pretty quiet day.
Are there no major aspects?
No, there's just the semi-square, 9:15 a.m. Mercury in Leo, semi-square Jupiter in Cancer. And like the semi-square is always like or the semi-sextile, pardon. Semi-sextile between Mercury and Leo and Jupiter in Cancer. There's something about, I don't know, it feels like child energy. It feels like
playful.
It does feel playful.
Yeah, because you got that Sun quintile to Chiron, which is unique, creative ways of.
And it's also just like Mercury Jupiter contacts.
Yeah.
Can bring like a more aspect to it. You're getting more ideas, and they're not fully formed, but like there's a more to. It's like adding and. Yeah. And someone's like, I want to do this, and the other person goes and. Like add on to it and you're not quite able to say what that and is, but you're like, oh yeah, I can think about that now.
Yeah. Especially like, again, like what you were saying, it's very like youthful energy between like Leo and Cancer. You're right. It almost feels like you're saying and, but the first thing that came to mind was like when a kid is like trying to learn something and they're like, why is the sky blue? And then you explain them, they're like, but why? But why? But why? And there's always a why that can come after. But yeah, I think that Leo and Cancer can very much be like childish energy. It can be both playful and mischievous, and also you're kind of like falling back on old habits a little bit, maybe in a fun way.
There's definitely a little bit of creativity to it. The semi-sextile is more or less a pleasant aspect.
It's not necessarily a fully realized aspect.
No, it's very minor.
Yeah. And then you've got around noon, moon in Virgo is going to quintile Jupiter. which again, it's just like Virgo and Cancer doing their thing.
I think it just gives a little bit more like support and ease to how the moon in Virgo is feeling. Maybe it's like we're feeling a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah. Think about whatever was going on the day prior with that sextile to Jupiter that the moon made. I think that this will just like further that story and kind of support it, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. And then 3:00 we have a sesqui square to retrograde Pluto, which is going to feel a little doo-doo-y, but
frustrating, anxiety.
Yeah, doo-doo-y.
Yeah.
But again, these are like all minor aspects. This is going to speak more to just like mood shifts throughout the day.
Yeah.
You might be a little moody on this day.
Yeah.
And then we're ending the day, like literally there's nothing else until about 9:51 p.m. We have a moon quintile to the sun, which again, just kind of creative energy.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that is important about that, let's see if it does hit that time and I just didn't get it. The last aspect of the day, which is actually not all that great. Let me make sure of it. Yeah, the moon is going to hit that south node.
Yuck.
Some sort of emotional release.
Yep.
So like I think about that sesqui square earlier, that frustration, right? You know? And then we get into this emotional release. This can also be with a moon conjunct the south node. It has the nature, the south node has the nature of Saturn. So there's like endings around like lunar things. There can be, you know, maybe some sort of woman passes that has like, you know, kind of matriarchal Virgo kind of energy. There can just be issues with, it sounds like health and women's issues. Yes, I'm like, I don't know if I love that.
No.
But there will be a supportive trine after the moon goes through this south node to Venus in Taurus. So I don't think it's all bad, but I do think that there's some sort of release that happens here.
Yeah. I'd say Monday is kind of a day for rest.
Yeah.
Just like nothing, you know.
I mean, you certainly, unless you wanted something to like literally drain out. Oh, and you could also just be feeling kind of emotionally sucked dry.
Yeah.
Moon, south node, low energy and low emotional energy, right? To just be able to deal with anything, you're just feeling like kind of worn out.
Spaced out, disassociated. Like it's just like you're in the midst of doing that purging so that you don't have energy for much else.
Yeah. This definitely feels like throwing up.
Yeah, right.
Because it's in Virgo.
Especially in Virgo. Yeah, exactly.
Like moon,
gotta do something about that tummy ache.
Moon, south node, in Virgo sounds like bulimia. Oh my God. Am I wrong?
No. We've talked about bulimia twice this week.
Have we?
We have.
Wild.
But anyway. But yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's like trying to purge things in a very Virgoan way, which could be bulimia.
Or literally whatever ways that you have done any sort of like analytical habit changing, right? Like where you're like, I know that I need to do this and I know I need to do this. Now you're able to like let go of all of the things. Or
in any of the places that you have been too critical on yourself. Virgo. That can also be what we release. So I would say Monday is a day of kind of like rest and release. You know, like you're not going to have a ton of energy to do much else. Maybe you'll get a little bump with that quintile to Jupiter in the middle of the day. Yeah. But
slow news day, maybe.
Slow news day. I hope.
God willing.
So that's it. I mean, there are some really big things happening this week, particularly that new moon in Cancer that is very activated. Right. There's a lot going on with that new moon in Cancer. Yeah. That's happening Wednesday.
Yeah, she's juicy. And I think that a lot of that energy really like pushes us through the rest of the week.
Yeah. And there's definitely plenty of other aspects happening. But I think the biggest thing, like the thing that kept coming up when we were talking was just moving out of our comfort zones.
I mean, and I think we have to as individuals, and we have to as a country. I think we all have to, I don't know.
As a species, honestly.
I mean, yes, absolutely. But, you know, thinking about resources, right? I was having this thought earlier today around like food because I'm always thinking about food. I'm a Taurus. Um, but thinking about like, okay, so in having to like whittle down, groceries because groceries are so expensive now.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Holy shit.
The what I bought 2 weeks ago versus what I bought a week ago, it was like $30 more.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not just that it's expensive, it's the rate at which it's becoming more expensive, right?
And so I was having this conversation with myself as I was like pouring cream into my coffee for my second cup of coffee, was like, okay, so what are the things that I am willing, like, what are the first things that I give up in order to like save money or to, to be better with resources. Right. And I'm like, well, I guess it would probably be one of the things would be the second cup of coffee because like creamer itself is $6. Like,
is a luxury.
And coffee is a luxury. I mean, I feel like it's more than a luxury, but like, these sorts of things. And I think we are all going to have those sorts of conversations with ourselves. Maybe similarly, we should go back in time sometime and look at what like the Dust Bowl and also World War II, when they were doing rationing, like what was going on with the planets at that time to see like,
I mean, we already established what was going on with Uranus during that time because the Dust Bowl was Uranus and Taurus. But what else was going on specifically during, I would say I would be interested in seeing what was going on specifically during the rationing and the buying of war bonds during World War II. All
of the rationing stuff I think would be a really interesting little side
would
quest.
Would it be worth like looking up when a famine happened?
100%.
Like maybe we should look into like the Irish potato famine or something. I don't know, we're gonna do some history research. And
but
get back to you.
I think what we're trying to say is doing the preliminary and very good Virgo work of asking ourselves, is this really critical and necessary to our survival and our comfort? And being able to separate like literally the wheat from the chaff around the things that are not actually essential and not actually necessary in order for us to participate better in this thing called community. And to also think, okay, this is where I can share resources, and this is where I would hope that the community that I am consciously creating can do, share resources, whether like they can cook and I have this and, whatever that is. So
my one thing I will say as we sign off on this, just because I think one issue with Virgo is like kind of the shadow side of Virgo can be martyrdom. Is even though Virgo is very good at purging what is and is not necessary, I think sometimes Virgo can take things that
a little too far.
It can definitely take things too far. And we're in a society that tells us that joy is unnecessary when joy is in fact a necessary part of survival. So make sure when you're thinking about what you need to purge or what is no longer serving you, just remember that just because something brings you joy does not mean it is superfluous or unnecessary. Especially when we're thinking in terms of like, how can I better be in community? The best thing about being in community is being able to find joy,
play and connect,
and to play and connect. So just think in those terms as some of this Virgo energy will come into your life. Just remember,
your door at the end.
Know the difference between purging what is unnecessary and martyring yourself. And that was more message for me.
I love that for you.
So thank you.
Okay.
So that's it. This definitely wasn't short.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
2 hours. Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye guys. Thank you.